may be wondering why we're here at Best Buy, 6th Avenue and 23rd Street. It's not to shop, it's to tell you a little about the history of Mr. Booth. In 1869, he built his dream theater here, the Booth. You must remember, the grid work of New York was just being imposed, and the theater district at the time was 23rd Street. So most of the great entertainment halls were along this stretch. Lots changed since then. Booth Theater. State-of-the-art in its day, the largest theater with hydraulic lifts, gas lights completely lowerable on both house and stage, unheard of. But with the market crash in '73, he had to sell the theater. In those 4 years, though, he lived above it. And the first production here was Romeo and Juliet, with Mary McVicker, who became his second wife. And above the entrance was this bust of William Shakespeare that greeted all patrons coming. Due to the financial crash of '73, he only owned the building for a few years. It was torn down, the department store was built, it was torn down again and was a parking lot until this building was built in 2002. In 1888, Edwin Booth purchased a townhouse across the street. Quite the scandal in its day to have an actor in this private park. Stanford White, his neighbor, spent a year renovating the house and turning it into the club that we know it is today. And as the town moved uptown, 23rd Street, the theater district, also moved up. In this area was once a farm, and the gentleman who bought it subdivided it into, I think, 17 parcels or so, and if you bought a parcel, you owned part of the park. But at the time, like the Boston Common or Sheep's Meadow, it was yours to use as you wished. Most used it for family farming, vegetables. I'm not sure when it turned into the leisure park that it is today. But for that reason, it's a private park, owned by the people around it. And to this day, there are no public restaurants or public buildings of any kind. In 1917, the players donated to Gramercy Park this statue of Edwin Booth. It depicts him playing his signature role as Hamlet and clutching a locket around his neck that he actually wore in all the performances was a portrait of his father, Junius Sr. When in 1889 the club finally opened to Stanford White's designs, several of the neighbors complained that it looked like a beer garden. With the garish wrought iron and the gas lamps, pretty new in their day, and exotic topiaries and benches in front, a lot of went on. Booth's bedroom, his living quarters for 4 years of his life, until he died, was on the 4th floor, up on the left. Always an actor, he was born in a cascade of meteors, a shower of which had not been seen in centuries. And the night he died, a dark and stormy night, the lights flickered, the gas went out, as did all electricity. And when they came on, Mr. Booth had passed away. and Fifth Avenue at the Episcopal Church of the Transfiguration, also known as the Little Church Around the Corner. It's had a long association with the theatrical community going back to before the Players. Joseph Jefferson, second president of the club, was making funeral arrangements for an actor friend at another church about a block and a half away when he was refused, saying, "We don't bury actors, but there's a little church around the corner that might." Hence the name, and to this day a long association with actors has flourished. In 1923, the Episcopal Actors Fund was started and still has its home base here. So, we just walked the route from the Players, up Fifth Avenue, and over to here, which was the same route as Booth's funeral procession, where here he laid. It's interesting to note that during the funeral, thousands attended. It was a parade that marched here. But as the service broke and the congregation was leaving, down in Washington, D.C., the ceiling collapsed at the Ford Theater, killing 20 people. On a lighter note, 5 years after the funeral, the Players gave to this church the window behind me. In 1898 it was installed in Edwin Booth, and yes, yet again, a signature role in Hamlet. (1864) New York. Central Park has only been open about 3 years. Designed by Olmsted, this is the top of the Walk of Poets, the Mall, the Grand Boulevard lined with statues of poets. Opening it, of course, is Shakespeare. In November of 1864, yes, for the only time, the three Booth brothers, Junius Jr., known as Jude, John Wilkes, and Edwin, performed Caesar, and it was a fundraiser to build this statue of Shakespeare for the park. Edwin also had a hand in suggesting the costuming and the pose, and now it's ours forever. When Olmsted and Vaux, America's greatest exterior designers, planned Central Park, they envisioned it as a park for the people. As you can see behind me, it's that today and more. We're at the top of the Walk of Poets, the central mall in Central Park that is lined with statues of poets, and of course, head by the great bard himself.